Hey y'all, welcome back to Weekly Hyperfixations. I'm Riot. First of all, I'd love to say Happy New Year to everyone. Very fitting for our last episode of the year to be recorded on New Year's Day to cap out 1 year of having done this. Very exciting. And I thought it'd be very fun for this New Year's episode to kind of just cover the past year, what I've talked about the most, who I've talked about the most, and then also, as is the trend that pops up every year, things that I think should be in or out in 2026. So let's go ahead and get started. Pretty much every single thing that I'm going to talk about besides the in and out list are compiled from all of my other notes for the rest of the year. And I just picked everything that was talked about most frequently among any other topics. The same thing with the pyramid. The pyramid is based off of who was on the pyramid the most in the past year. So let's go ahead and get started. I think we'll start with Superman, honestly, because out of all of the topics on here, even though I talked about it a lot and only really covered a short period of time in general throughout this past year of Weekly Hyperfixations, just because I talked about either the actors or like I had a whole episode that was mostly just talking about the movie, things like that. Talked about James Gunn a lot. Probably my personal movie of the year. And I will say with that, because I know some of y'all are going to be like, how is that your movie of the year? Y'all, I think in terms of new movies, I think I watched like 2. And the other was Nosferatu. And that was so close to last year that it really feels like last year to me and not. It really felt more like the end of 2024 to me, even though I saw it in January, I think, or February maybe of 2025. It feels like the previous year. I literally only saw 2 new movies in theaters, I think. Oh, I did see Wicked. I still like Superman more than that, I guess, but that's mainly because most of my qualms with the movie Wicked were things that they have in the musical but didn't have in the movie. So, but I also think Superman was a really formative movie this year because of its commentary on war, really, and what it means to truly be a good person or to truly be punk rock. Which is it was a really needed message, and I'm really glad that it came out because it's definitely something that was needed this year, and it inspired hope in a lot of people. And I'll probably talk about that a little more once we get to the pyramid. Y'all probably can tell why, but honestly, connecting to that, Superman had commentary on war, and with that, a lot of people review bombed Superman because they outright believed that it was commentary on the war that Israel's performing against Palestine for literally no reason. And I'm using the word war. I know the other word fits, but I'm a little worried about using that in a video. I'm worried that like some filter will catch it if I use that specific G word. So I will continue to refer to it as a word just in case. Because there's not really, if any new things have been implemented, they usually get implemented on the 1st. So I want to make sure that I tread lightly just in case, because even though this is not at all a big channel, I am a little worried regardless. But all that to say, I think it was really important that the commentary on war that James Gunn baked into Superman was really important because Palestine is under fire. And similarly, oh my gosh, I can't, my brain, Palestine is under fire. And then similarly, Sudan and the Congo also under that kind of fire. And we had a lot of great movement towards freeing Palestine in terms of just it's becoming a more and more popular opinion. People are being more openly against it, which is way better than when we started the year in 2025. But I think we also now need to break through that relevancy or like popularity barrier for also Sudan and Congo, because the same thing is happening to them. Sure, it's not broadcast as much, but it is happening. It was really encouraging, honestly, to look back at all of my notes that mention the conflict that Gaza is facing right now, and just to see over time more and more political figures and like movie stars and just celebrities in general, seeing how at the beginning of the year there was like basically some people outright support basically at the entry gate, and then over time more and more people got into the notes of like, this person is now supporting it, this person is now supporting Gaza, which is really encouraging to see that we have had a lot more of that. So I did want to really highlight that. Oh my goodness. I talked a surprising amount about Deltarune, which I did also want to bring up that this morning, Toby Fox gave an announcement that Chapter 5 was on its way. He kind of just vaguely said it, though. There's no set date or anything. But that's very exciting. I did surprisingly talk a lot about Deltarune, and I forgot, honestly, how much time I invested into watching it, and things like that. But also, the music, I didn't really get any of those, like, you know, I don't do Spotify anymore, so no Spotify Wrapped for me, things like that. But I can say pretty confidently that Cat Swing from Deltarune, probably my most listened to song, just because it was a very good stim. And it helped me get through a lot of projects and emails and shit like that. And I did want to double down on highlighting Deltarune. In partnership with, I also talked a lot about the D&D campaign I ran, but we had a Christmas one-shot that we did just last week, and one of the people at our table themed their character after Noel holiday, and my character was partially themed after Grillby from Undertale. He might be in Deltarune too, I don't remember. Grillby, regardless. The other half of the inspiration for my character was Heat Miser, so, you know. But it ended up being way more Grillby inspiration. But it was so very fun because it was like a weird duo dynamic that I had with that player character, because like basically the opposite character. We've got young girl who is predominantly ice powers, and then adult man with fire powers. So it was very funny how many things our characters agreed on in terms of like, we probably shouldn't, you know, kill off this creature in the campaign because it doesn't really seem like a threat to us, or like we agreed on like things don't seem right, you know, anything for, like within the D&D session of that were just like non-violent courses of action, it was really funny that our characters were agreeing, even though visually very, very opposite characters. So I guess transitioning into talking about the D&D campaign I was running, we're taking a hiatus from my campaign and letting my partner actually take the DM chair. Very exciting, because that means I get to play more D&D myself. And also planning is a little bit hard on my ADHD. A little bit hard, you know, on my ADHD. Not a little bit, a little bit. But it was a good year for that D&D campaign. Honestly, you learn a lot, because it's not so much as me having to learn any of the D&D side of things. I have that down. I've had that down for like a very long time. But it was basically someone was needed to functionally volunteer for a management position, because that's a lot of what it is managing, like, what are your characters doing? What is the story doing? Are the characters doing things that are going to end up changing the story later on? Things like that. And it's just really, it was really interesting. And I was very quote unquote nice in terms of DMing, because the reason I was in the DM chair is because no one else at the table had played the game before. So we needed the person who had experience and time to plan in the DM seat. So that had to be me. But it really worked out, honestly. And now my partner is going to take the reins for a while, with a completely different campaign, which is really exciting. But I don't know. I'm just very excited to encounter a new D&D campaign, and also reflect upon all of the good experience I garnered of things like management, managing people's schedules, managing resources, storytelling, managing my own time for pre-planning, improvisation, adapting when something does not go the way that it has been planned to, things like that. All really good experiences overall, and I really wanted to highlight that, because I know that some people who do not play Dungeons and Dragons, there is always a chance that they're not aware that you do learn a lot of good skills during D&D that are not, like, at face value, may not look like something that can be applied elsewhere. But in reality, even if you're just a player character, you're managing resources, you are at times delegating tasks, things like that. Excuse me. So it's really, really good, honestly. And I talked about my campaign a lot this year. And I can't wait to talk about the campaign going into the following year. Let's see what else. A lot of stuff happened Pokemon wise. Oh my gosh. Hold on. Oh, just in my chair, I was sitting on my leg. Pokemon had so many crazy things this year. Of course, we had Pokemon Legends ZA, and a bajillion Mega Evolutions came with that, and they're all really cool. But then we also had things like, we had announced that, I can't remember what it's called, but it's kind of like a Pokemon Coliseum type game was announced. I remember. I can't remember what it's called. Pokopia was announced. Where's the other one? The other thing that was announced. I don't remember. Either way, I talked about Pokemon a lot this year, which isn't surprising to me. It's a hyperfixation I've had since I was like 4, and my older brother set me up to basically be in that hyperfixation literally on the day I was born. Because, you know, I don't know if it's common anymore, but people would like bring plushies or something to the kid and I have a Pikachu plushie that is almost 25 years old. So potentially one of the first Pikachu plushies that exists. I'm not sure. He's really old and chunky. But yeah, so of course I talked a lot about Pokemon this year. Just new Pokemon characters. A lot overall happened. You know, there was the Pokemon trading card game app that got really popular this year, and things like that. So overall, it was a pretty big year for Pokemon, but believe it or not, we're having an even bigger Pokemon anniversary this year. So I'm really hoping that they announce the next full generation of Pokemon. So like the next mainline game. I really hope they do that soon, because I believe we're coming up on 30 years of Pokemon, which is insane. It also means that Pokemon as a company is only like 5 years older than me. But I'm really excited to see where the year takes us in terms of Pokemon, because that's like the game I play, basically. So, but also I could talk about the other games I played this year and I could go on for hours. I will be talking about one other one, but still. Also a big year for Critical Role. I talked about Critical Role a lot. Especially since, you know, they started their newest campaign and there's 13 people, I think, which is so many people. And also, of course, they switched over to Brendan Lee Mulligan for the DM for this campaign, and Matt's at the table this time and things like that. And this campaign is like, the prologue especially was just punch after punch after punch after punch. It was so unbelievably good. And it is a little slower now, but that is mostly because the prologue was meant to be big and setting the scene for everyone. And now there are some things that are still intense, but it's definitely a slower pace because it's now slowed down to the standard, what I think to be like a standard D&D campaign pace, which can be slow to some people. So I do understand that. But let's see. And of course, always being anti-AI, but more now more than ever. Especially since basically people in power who want to be able to use that kind of thing for literally whatever they want, they're blocking the greater American people from making any regulations about it, which really sucks. But also just there's no good reason to be using it, literally none. And I do speak towards generative AI specifically. There's been a mass exodus of artists off of Twitter because Twitter made it so that you can edit images using their built-in AI. Basically, any tweet you see from another that's in another language gets auto-translated using AI, so it's usually not very accurate at all. Things like that. Even Google Translate is more accurate, and Google Translate is never a good option for translation, but it's way better than that. Also, there's been like an alarming increase in people trying to make it sound like it's a normality. It's not. Hey, it's not normal to be doing that. Hey, it's not normal to be praising and using a tool that's destroying the planet. Maybe don't do that. But I just wanted to reiterate my stance on that kind of thing because I am predominantly an artist. I make art. In fact, I'm even less inclined towards digital art than I have been in the past because even the mere idea of me using a program to make something and then finding out that they snuck in some sort of like auto enhancement feature or something similar without my permission, and now my art has it and I didn't even ask for it. I'm very much locking in on doing more physical art. Like, I started a couple paintings. I'm going to finish one. I'm going to re-gesso the canvas for one because I want to pivot on what I was going to do with that one. But that's pretty much what I have to say there. And then, of course, I talked an extreme amount about Final Fantasy XIV. It's a banger. I finished Endwalker, which basically there's like the main story and then a bunch of expansions. The most recent expansion came out last year. It's Dawn Trail. Or maybe it came out late 2024, but Dawn Trail nonetheless. Dawn Trail came out, and Endwalker is the one that's right before that. So I've finished Endwalker. I'm doing the post-game stuff, and then I'll be in what is currently the newest expansion. So I'm very excited. Also, there were a couple announcements today for Final Fantasy XIV. It sounds like the team is at least working really hard on the next expansion. They never phrased it like that, really, but they were talking about things that as a collective community, we assume to be things that will be brought in the next expansion, like a new job class, Beastmaster, which sounds really fun. Things like that. It's a really fun game, honestly. And I've also just been watching more people play the game, and I'm like finding out that like, oh, this person I watch play the game knows this other person that I used to watch do other content, but they also play this game. So it's very interesting to see that the community does connect through a bunch of things, because the community's insane. It's so big. So even just seeing like people in the content creation sphere connect over the game is really entertaining to me. Also very exciting. It's very hard to acquire a private estate, like a house, in Final Fantasy XIV because it is a housing lottery system, because the game is made from Japan. So using those like lottery systems is a bit easier. And it was a very happy Christmas to me, because due to the holidays, less people were on the game, which means when I went to bid on a house, no one else bid on the house, so I got it by default. And like the day that the entry period basically ended was the day after Christmas. And it was really entertaining because it was like, you know, minutes after Christmas was over, and the game was like, okay, and then here's your house for you. It was great. It's been a lot of fun decorating it, honestly. It's also given me a lot of time to rearrange storage stuff because I have a lot more space now. So it's been really fun. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to my ins and outs of 2026. I tried to stick to about 5 things on each list, though I'll elaborate upon it. So our first thing that I think should be in 2025, or 2026. The first thing I think should be in for 2026 is collage. And it does not have to be physical. I know there's ways to do it digitally. For myself, I was thinking more physically, but just making, like, you know, some people make mood boards with their own hands. People do planning mood boards before like musicals and costume design and things like that. And also because a lot of things in this world are trying to push people into isolation. Hey, this is a fun thing to do with your homies. It doesn't need to be serious. You can buy video game magazines and do it. You can listen, I know it seems very much a girly thing. Hey, you can pick the magazines you acquire to do this with. You know what I mean? You can just go to a craft store and get some different colored paper and just make like a little fucking Mario World picture. It doesn't matter. Collage is fun. You can do it with other people. It's not hard. There's also no rules to it. Just glue the things to the paper or do it digitally. Doesn't matter. But just physical collage. Or, well, yeah, or digital. I'm going to be doing physical. And then in my list for things that should be out, this is one I've seen on a couple of people's lists, and I put it on mine because I really agree with it. The color white in general. I mean, as an AFAB individual, I'm not a fan of wearing white in general. I'm far too afeared of the monthly bleeding, but I say as if I don't definitely, like, I own gray sweatpants that are like almost white, but I definitely think that, well, first of all, I completely disagree with Pantone's quote unquote color of the year. They made it sound like as racist as fucking possible, which is crazy to me. But also, I think the color white should be out because there are so many vibrant colors. And you're going to tell me people are picking a basic option? Lame. Straight up lame. Ugh. Anyway, I'll get into another one that kind of follows that up in a minute. But I wanted to read the next in and out on the list together. Or one after the other, rather. So a thing I think should be in 2026 is friendly rivalries that are exclusively for the bit. As in, not actually mad, not genuinely trying to one-up each other, because why would you do that? Because I think what should be in is friendly rivalries that are more in jest than anything else. And I think what should be out is genuine competitiveness that's born out of things like anger or jealousy or feeling inadequate. I think it should really I think rivalries should always be like the funny rivalries you have in gym class when you're having banter against the other team that's not serious. You're not being serious. It's just funny and you're having a good time. That's really what competitiveness should be. I absolutely hate competitiveness where people get genuinely nasty to each other because why are you choosing to be mean? Why would you do that? You know what I mean? I absolutely hate when people choose to be mean. And what's so funny to me is I used to not think this way at the time that I was in a Christian household, which is probably when I should be thinking this way. You know what I mean? So that really tells you how organized religion feels. But I genuinely think that competitiveness that's born out of inadequacy, feeling inadequate or anger or jealousy, really don't. It's not that serious. You know what I mean? But I do think that friendly rivalries that are for the bit, like there was this guy in high school who declared himself my rival. We never were actually very competitive against each other. It was mostly a bit, honestly. And I really miss that because it was funny. It was a good bit. It was entertaining. Ugh. And it's not even like it wasn't really that serious. Oh, but I do really think that genuine competitiveness that's born out of feeling inadequate or angry or like being angry or being jealous. Really get that shit out of here. Friendly rivalries that are specifically for the bit are real good though, because you both know you're just having a good time. To everyone else it looks insane, but you and the other person know that it's not serious and you're just having a good time. And that's what's important. And then our next thing that I think should be in, and this is sort of jokingly, and also this is based on fashion forecasting, and it's not something that I would love to be in right now, but with the surge towards things like owning physical media, readapting to maximalism, things like that, I definitely think that something that will, to me, it's unfortunate a little bit, but something that I do think will be in this year is another surge of animal print, which technically that was on the runway like last year, but it does usually take a little bit for things to make their way into the general populace in terms of popularity. I do think animal print is going to be more in this year, which is really entertaining, because you would think that with people liking the Y2K aesthetic, we would have had more of that sooner, but it's really interesting that it took a while. Something I think should be completely out, and I know I'm not the only person who thinks it, minimalism. Get that shit out of here. The reason houses started being like, they're just painted white, they're not like all of the like anything in the house is very plain. The original idea behind that was that so the individual person could customize their space. But some idiots were like, actually, I prefer it this way. Lame. Hey, lame. Where's my mosaic stairs? Where's my dark green walls, burnt orange trim? Not burnt orange trim. Where are my colorful walls, colorful trim, big mirrors, stained glass, beautiful lights, Victorian style lamps? Come on, you know? I really think that minimalism needs to get its happy little ass out of here, because there are people who genuinely believe that minimalism and getting rid of stuff makes you happier. First of all, even if it's true for them, that doesn't mean it's true for everyone. Some people like having things. I don't think an ADHD person like me would enjoy being in a house where everything is black and white and nothing is fun and nothing is cool. Hello? What do you, sir? You know what I mean? I have a crow brain. I need my trinkets. Me and my fucking crow brain and trinkets, huh? But I do genuinely think that minimalism has gotta get out of here. You know what I mean? Next up on my things I think should be in this year is mixed metals in jewelry, and not just like alloys and stuff like that. But I do think that there's no reason that people need to only be sticking to like a gold tone or a silver tone. There shouldn't be a point. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, sure, if you do it wrong, it can look very incohesive. But also, live and let live. Hello? Why do people insist that you have to be one or the other? Also, I hate when people are like, oh, do you do gold or silver jewelry? Hey, there's other colors? There's other options. Did you know there's other options? Crazy, I know. But I definitely think that people should stop caring about like, oh, but I only wear silver jewelry. Oh, but I only wear gold jewelry. Hey, it doesn't matter. Like, sure, there are people who on a personal level do not want it, but I don't think it's not a rule, guys. You know what I mean? Anyway. Next up, I think something that should be out in 2026 in general is, and I wrote it as performative disguises. I'm talking about performative male, performative mask, anything like that. People who are specifically curating themselves to look a certain way that they don't normally do in order to get a certain reaction. Get that shit out of here. You're not even doing it for a fun reason. It's almost always for a selfish reason. And if I wanted to see someone be performative, hey, I'm a theater kid. That's a space that is dedicated to specifically pretending to be some other thing for the entertainment of others. You ain't entertaining everyone. You're trying to trick people. Why would you do that? Anyway, I think that kind of thing should also just be out. It's really fucking funny that it even exists in the first place to me, because I, as an ADHD person, I can't imagine someone not being their authentic self. Or phrased incorrectly, I can't imagine someone wanting to do that. I can't imagine someone wanting to do that, because I can't fathom someone wanting to be mean, evil, or deceitful, because there's no point in doing that. Anyway, another thing I think should be very in 2026 is 90s children's television, and also things that are adjacent to that, because I do want to include the Muppets in that, even though it's not outright for kids technically. Some of the Muppet stuff like freaked me out when I was little. Like, I remember I didn't like the pigs in space thing. I have no idea why, because I haven't seen it since then and I don't remember what it looks like. But at the same time, I was scared of Animal as a kid, but Animal's always been my favorite character, so, you know. I do think 90s children's TV is a really important thing, and some of them may be early 2000s, but I perceive them as the same time period. But things like Dragon Tales and Reading Rainbow, Between the Lions, things like that. I think that kind of children's television is very important, and I do think, honestly, that Bluey is really bringing a similar energy to the table, even though it is modern and updated. I do think it has the same vibe of gentle children teaching, which is really important, honestly, because so many people are just trying to pump out things that will satiate kids, when in reality we need to be focusing more on giving them like good role models and things like that. And then the final thing that I think that should be out and left behind in 2025 is digital media. And by that, I mean streaming services. Hey, fuck that. If you own a physical copy of whatever you want to watch, first of all, the streaming service can't take it away from you and be like, oh, we're cycling this out next month. You don't have to pay for it every time you watch it. You arguably, in terms of long-term investment, you pay less for the thing and get more for your money if you buy a physical copy of it. And also a lot of people were pushing to bring back physical media for the new year as a form of protest towards companies, which I think is a great idea. I still have my, I want to say, iPod Shuffle. It's the square iPod that only has buttons on it and an audio jack and doesn't have any screen or anything on it. I still have that. I'll probably be using it more again, which I'm excited about because I do know how to plug those into some speakers, so that's fun. But also just an excuse to use physical media. Both my partner is very big on physical media already. Literally, you can't see it and I won't show it to you, but literally we've got a shelf of my books, and I've got VHS tapes of my favorite 80s and 90s movies. And then this whole shelf is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Most of it is DVDs. There's a couple VHSs, and then some physical games. And then the bottom shelf is just like all these superhero movies and shows. So I'm very lucky to have a partner who has a huge head start in specifically collecting physical media of things. I'm very big on vinyl records and CDs, which is very fun. And I highly recommend it just because genuinely there's no greater thing than being like, then first of all, you don't have to worry about having an internet connection to watch the thing. You don't have to worry about if the server is down. You don't have to worry about, oh, actually the streaming service got rid of it last month and now it's over on this other one that we don't pay for. That kind of thing. You don't have to worry about any of it, which is really nice. And I highly recommend physical media. Those are my ins and outs. I kind of sped through them because this is getting long. We're going to move on to the pyramid. Again, the pyramid this week is purely determined by who was on the pyramid the most in 2025. It's a very interesting list. Some of it is more surprising than others. Mainly the two men that are on the pyramid are the surprising ones to me. But let me see. Do I have my numbers? I do. Okay, good. I'll even read to you guys how many times each person was mentioned. And I will say, I only looked through my current notebook. And my current notebook starts at week 4. So there's 3 weeks of weekly hyperfixations that are not accounted for in this count. Just so everyone knows. So first up on the pyramid with 3 mentions, or sorry, I can't read. There were a lot of people tied for 4 mentions, so I basically just picked 2 people. So first up on the pyramid is Cynthia Erivo. She was on the pyramid the most this year, mostly out of the fact that she is Elphaba in Wicked, and she did an immaculate job, and it was very good. And also just her vocals are so killer, and she seems like a very good person, like a very good scene partner. And also, I'm very surprised that out of everyone in Wicked, she was on the pyramid the most. I expected that, like, I expected in my count, basically I counted everyone who had 3 or more mentions first. I'm surprised not even a single person, no one else from Wicked even had 3 mentions. In fact, I don't even think a lot of them had 2, which is a little surprising. But that Cynthia Erivo's on the pyramid for capping 2025 out and entering in 2026 because of her performance in Wicked. Next up on the pyramid, also with 4 mentions, picked for the general contribution to the year, basically, is James Gunn. Mostly because of his work in Superman, but also because of his stance on things like AI, and also his general fan interactions and things like that. It's very much, this is a person who cares about what he is making and also cares that the fans are having meaningful discussion about it very clearly. So James Gunn is on the pyramid predominantly for his work on Superman, but also for making very important public statements about the morality of things like AI. Next up on the pyramid, with 5 mentions, we have Baby No Money. I'm surprised I mentioned him 5 whole times, honestly. And he is tied with the next person on the pyramid. But Baby No Money, of course, he's on here for his musical career. That, as far as I'm aware, is still over. There's been no announcement to the contrary. But he's also I mentioned him a lot on the pyramid, not just because I like his music, but also because his contribution towards anti-AI as a movement, and also his contribution to things like paying real artists, and giving real artists work when they haven't seen work in months because of AI, things like that. That's very important and a very good stance to have. And, you know, in general, he also just seems like a really chill dude. So, of course, Baby No Money is on the pyramid, predominantly for his contributions to his community and his music. Next up on the pyramid, also with 5 mentions, is Doechii. God, her music is so good, first of all. I think also some of the things on the pyramid were like Met Gala and things like that. But in general, I really enjoy that, you know, what was it, 5 years ago, now almost 6 probably, Doechii decided to give up everything and pursue music, and it has just popped the fuck off for her, and it's so beautiful, and there's more Doechii stuff coming soon, and I'm really excited about it. But Doechii's on the pyramid because she really made a movement in music this past year, which is really, it's a difficult industry, and she rose up literally out of nothing because she had lost her job due to the pandemic, I believe. So Doechii's on the pyramid because she's fucking earned it, y'all. Next up on the pyramid with 7 total mentions this year is Sabrina Carpenter. Of course, predominantly due to things like the Short and Sweet tour, but also in general, Sabrina Carpenter, of course, a bigger teaser trailer came out today for it, but Sabrina Carpenter has been working with Seth Rogen on the New Year's Muppets special, which has the potential to completely bring back the Muppets, which is really honestly something we need as a community. And by a community, I mean the world. But also just like, she's faced a lot of backlash over, you know, things as inconsequential as album covers, and she's just powered completely through it. So Sabrina Carpenter is on the pyramid for her music contribution and her contribution to the Muppets. And then finally on the pyramid, mentioned 8 whole times, is a little drum roll in there, is Chappell Roan. Not a surprise to me. I knew she was going to be very high up on this list. And I'm not that surprised that she is at the top. All of her costuming for all of her shows this year were absolutely immaculate. Of course, she had drag queens with her at every stop of that tour, and just also having a young woman in music who is not afraid to put her foot down about boundaries when this, not just industry, but society as a whole, is basically engineered to try and tamp down the qualms, emotions, and feelings of women. To see her just rise to the top immediately is very, very important and powerful, and I'm really glad she has. Chappell Roan is on the pyramid because holy shit. The whole top 3 of the pyramid, honestly, is just women who, despite society and the industry trying to pull them down, they still win. They stay winning. And so, of course, Chappell Roan is capping out the pyramid. top of the pyramid today and top of the pyramid first of 2026 and last of 2025. And by God, they all have really earned the spot on the pyramid. I think also I only counted how many times people have been on the pyramid any spot. I do think if I did top spot only, we would still have Sabrina and Chapel near the top. Because I definitely know that I put them more on the pyramid at the top. But that caps out the pyramid. Well, y'all, hopefully you all had an excellent end to your 2025. Cannot wait to look forward into 2026 with you all and to spend another year tracking hyperfixations and how societal events and things like that kind of pivot that as a whole. Oh my gosh. Sorry. But I'm very excited just in general to keep doing this because it's very fun. And honestly, that's what's important, is not necessarily like trying to overdo things, but just doing something because it's fun. So as always, thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. It's free. All that good stuff. Also, if you're new here, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did like what you see, I will continue to keep doing this. Also, a bit of a maintenance announcement. I will be referring to each year of doing this as seasons, and I will be putting all of this year's episodes into a playlist so that we can keep each year basically separated and organized, to further help that. But anyways, like I always say, I hope you had a good week. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend, and I hope you have a good week next week. Thank you all so much for watching and so much for being here. I'll see you all next week. Same time, same place. And Happy New Year, y'all. I'll see you then.